think it's important to begin with an understanding of how many people expected there would be no bloodshed at all. That North and South were kind of playing chicken with one another. One Southern senator said, "I'll drink every drop of blood that is shed," as he was withdrawing from the Senate and seeing his state secede. People thought that there would be some kind of arrangement and that battle would not be joined. When the war began, there was an expectation there would be one battle, and the North thought it would win decisively, the South thought it would win decisively, and everyone would stop. And month after month and year after year, the war ground on with higher death tolls rising through the initial years of the war, and until these death tolls become so stunning as to result in the kinds of perceptions that we see in Melville. A recent revision in analysis of Civil War death, evidence is incomplete. There were not adequate records, so we make guesses based on the records that exist. The latest study uses some techniques of modern demography to estimate what the death toll is, brings the death toll up to an estimated 750,000 individuals, which would be about 7 million people as a percentage of our population in the United States today. So if you think of what this country would be like if we had lost 7 million people in death and war over a 4-year period, it's almost unimaginable. To me, it would mean, I think, a change in everything from the logistics of how we manage the dead, and indeed all of this did happen in the Civil War, to the questions we ask ourselves about what does it mean to make such sacrifices for the nation state, to what kind of God exists in a world in which this can happen. To quote a Southern poet, to add one Southern poet's voice into this, Sidney Lanier said, "How does God have the heart to allow it?" So to ask those kinds of why questions that you began with, based on the extent of the suffering that this war brought to the people of the United States, is, I think, an essential question. And Melville, I believe, addresses that. As many people died in the Civil War as in every other American war combined. So.
And died, if I understand the sort of history of the technology a little bit, died in new ways, right? In ways for which old definitions of glory and of what it meant to charge and, hadn't prepared us.
Well, 2 out of 3 military deaths were from disease, from the mass armies that were brought together, the number of people that a war of the people, by the people, for the people represented. And these diseases that spread in an era before the germ theory was understood, so the armies polluted the waters that they then drank from, polluted the waters of Washington, D.C., which is probably why Lincoln's child died. No one understood this transmission of germs. No one understood antisepsis. The key technological development on the battlefield is the development of the mini ball, which is a bullet that expands in a rifle barrel so that it hits the grooves of the rifle. It can be conical in shape, which means that you extend the range of soldiers' weaponry significantly, maybe 3 times as much as it was before the war. You also get, in some instances, breech-loading weapons, which means you don't have to spend 3 minutes reloading, using the ramrod, priming the powder, etc. So you can get off many more shots. The North particularly embraced and was able to manufacture breech loaders. There were many fewer in the South. This was a distinct advantage for the North. But it just meant firepower increased dramatically. So if you marched across an open field, you were likely to be exposed to much more fire for much longer than in the wars that had preceded. Eventually, the strategies and tactics of the war caught up with this, and by the end of the war, people are entrenching themselves, not charging madly across fields in the ways they often had, unless a general decided, as Grant did in some instances, I outnumber the South, I can take these losses, I have to end this war. But those were the bloodbaths of the spring of 1864, of the battles of the Wilderness in Spotsylvania. But around Petersburg, for example, at the end of the war, Lee entrenched
Right.
Soldiers dug in,
I think
because they realized the dangers that were inherent in this enhanced firepower.